Hello everyone, how are we all doing? Sorry about the extra long countdown there today. I had a weird issue where it wouldn't let me go live straight away, so I had to extend the countdown again. But how is everyone doing out there? Hope everyone's doing good. As we chatted about on socials this week, this is the new slightly later live stream. So 8 PM GMT, let me know if this new time works for you guys. As always, let me know if you need more or less of anything. How is the volume sounding out there? I can see a few people in the chat already. Quicksilver, good to see you here. Not too worried I'm tuning in from the bathroom. Well, as long as the signal is good, then anywhere is a good place to tune in. And Dennis is here as well. Hey Dennis, how are you doing? Good to see you here as always. I'm trying out something new today as well. I'm also live streaming on Facebook at the same time. So if you're watching on Facebook, let me know. I don't think the Facebook comments are going to show up on the YouTube stream, but I can see the comments over there on my desk. So let me know if you guys are watching from Facebook and how all that sounds as well. So yeah, I thought I would try a multi-stream this week to see if we can get a few more people involved. So how's everyone doing this week anyway? What has everyone been up to? I can see there's a couple of people still tuning in. So again, this week, no real agenda. Just thought I'd come on, hang out, as always, talk about guitars and whatever else we want to talk about. I've got a bunch of new pedals on my desk as well that maybe we'll try some out on the stream if you guys want. The guys at Sonicake sent me a bunch of stuff to make some videos on, and I've not actually opened them yet. So I thought maybe we could hear some tones on the live stream while I'm still working up to getting around to making those videos. So I've got a couple of pedals, so if you want to hear any of those as well, let me know. As always, it's been a busy week. Not a ton of videos, still working my way through my huge editing backlog for my guitar course, but the videos are slowly starting to creep back out again. I posted a new video yesterday for anyone who hasn't seen it yet about something called Sound ID Reference, which is essentially like it's kind of geared towards people who write and record music at home. It's essentially a plugin that you use that sort of corrects the EQ of your room. So it's really, really useful if you're someone who struggles with mixing at home and you can't quite get the sound right in your studio. That's a really cool piece of software to check out. So I can see some comments coming in on Facebook, so I might be back and forth on my phone answering different things. Jared is in the chat over there. I've been a gear addict again, grabbed a Jaden Rose, and it's utterly splendid. I've heard really good things about those guitars, nothing but good stuff about them. So if anyone else has played a Jaden Rose, I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts as well. Dennis, everything is good coming from your end. I'm on time and doing pretty good. Yeah, well, we're going a bit to start doing some later streams, so I thought we would try a later stream out and see how that goes. Obviously, it's 8 PM in the UK here, and if this is a better time for everyone and this time sort of suits everyone a little bit more, then there's no reason why we can't stick to that. And I can now see that Facebook comments are coming up on the stream, which is really good. So if anyone is seeing comments pop up on the screen that aren't in the chat box on YouTube, that's because they're coming in from Facebook. So yeah, as I said, I've got a bunch of pedals to talk about today. We can hear some tones for the first time. We can talk about guitar and whatever else. It's always the way these things go. I see the Washburn N series. You do see that, just tucked over my shoulder there. And we'll talk about that guitar a little bit as well. I did put Superstrats in the title of this video as well, just because I'm in a Superstrat mood this week. So I thought Superstrats would be a good thing to talk about. I've got my 1988 Kramer Striker here. This was kind of a bucket list guitar for me, not because I wanted this particular colour, even though I do like this colour, but this guitar's from 1988, which is the year I was born, and I always wanted a vintage guitar from the year I was born. So yeah, this is kind of the one. always loved Superstrats, but yeah, it's just nice to own a real 80s one, especially from the vintage year that I was born. So yeah, that's what this thing is, if anyone's wondering. These are actually great guitars, and the Kramer, this is a Kramer Striker 610. I think they call them the 600 series. And these are actually very, very affordable. Even though they're vintage guitars, they're super affordable. You can actually pick these up on eBay for very little money. I think I paid like £210 for this one. And it's in pretty good condition. Obviously, it's slightly discoloring. You can kind of see it's partly dusty, but also you can kind of see, if I try and catch the light right, it's quite hard to do. This horn is sort of yellowing slightly compared to the rest of the body. And I think there was a patch of it somewhere else as well. But that horn is the main kind of thing there. It's slightly yellowing from age. But I mean, you know, for the age of the guitar, you don't really mind a little bit of coloration. The only other thing that I'm going to do to this at some point is it does need new frets. The frets on this are incredibly low because it's been played. The guy I bought it off gigged this thing a lot. So he's given it a bunch of fret dresses and it still plays good, but the frets are sort of in that crisis point now where they do need to be fixed at some point. So a refret is definitely in order. And some of you may have seen this Kramer on the vintage Superstrat conversation. I've used this one quite a few times on the streams, and I've talked about this one quite a lot. This is from 1985. Same guitar, same series, just 3 years older. This needs new electrics now, so I think that's my new project, because the electrics are starting to go in that one because it's nearly 40 years old. But yeah, Superstrat day today. So anyone out there got favourite Superstrats? Crazy colour, this Kramer. Hello from Brazil. Hello from Brazil indeed. Yeah, this is kind of a, I don't really know what we call this colour. It's sort of a burgundy, but with a very slight sparkle to it. What would you guys call this colour? This Kramer is actually an even weirder colour. So from certain angles, it looks kind of grey. And then as you kind of turn it into the light, you can see there's like a gold sort of shine to it. So the paint kind of flips from this grey to green to like a gold sparkle. It's a really, really strange colour that I don't even know what this colour is called. If anyone out there does know what this colour is called, I'd love to know, because I can't actually find anything online about what this would be called, but it's a really interesting colour. It sort of looks gold in some lights, green in some lights, and grey in some lights as well. When I bought it, I actually thought it was grey. I bought it on eBay and I genuinely thought it was a grey guitar, and then it arrived and it was like a green gold, so it's, you know, a nice surprise, but a bit different. So I can see some comments on Facebook over there. So what have we got going on over there? Welcome to the birth year guitar club. 88 is a good year. 88 is a good year. That's a fine vintage, I think, is a good way to describe that. We're not old, we're vintage. The Striker series are stupidly cheap for what they are. The necks are gorgeous on them too. Yeah, the necks are great. This one is a nice, this is kind of like a varnished maple neck. I prefer the neck on that one. Because that is more of a satin finish. It feels a little bit more worn in than this one, and it's got the nice rolled edges. But I have it on good authority from someone who worked at Kramer that these ones that came out in 85, the necks were made by ESP in Japan. So it's kind of, they're both great guitars, but that one's got like 10% more of something that this one just doesn't have, even though this is great. That one just has that kind of, that annoying thing that we as guitar players are always looking for. Iron gear pickups in that 85 Kramer all the way. Hot slag in the bridge, smokestack in the middle, and a jailhouse rail in the neck is what I'd go for. Those are, well actually on both of them, they're the original pickups. So whatever the stock ones are, these are actually Seymour Duncan designed pickups. I have no idea what the models are, but they say designed by Seymour Duncan on the covers. They sound great. Again, those ones sound a little bit better. They're slightly hotter. These are a little bit more rounded, but, you know, it's one of those things. They both sound great. That weird Kramer would have started off life as silver, and the clear coat has yellowed. Same thing that happened to the old Gibson Silverburst. There we go. Maybe they weren't that colour originally then. That would make sense. If that was a silver guitar and then the clear coat yellowed, that would kind of explain the kind of greeny goldy kind of hue to it, which is nice anyway. I quite like it. Maple neck is so cool. Yeah, I do like a maple neck. I don't own a ton of maple neck guitars, but it's a nice change from time to time, I think. I've never tried on Facebook. Is it better or about the same? I think it's about the same, to be honest, Dennis. I'm only really trying it for the first time tonight because I realised I could stream to multiple platforms, so I am. So yeah, there's actually a stream over on my Facebook page as well, so if anyone follows me over there, there's a stream going on there as well, and I can see the chat in both as well. But yeah, it's exactly the same stream. Philippe is here. Hey Philippe, how you doing? Chris Batten. Hey Chris, how you doing? Perfecto as well. Perfecto de Castro's here. How are you doing, Perfecto? Good to see you all as always. I love Charvel Superstrats. Charvel sparkle colours are so cool. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Charvels, but I don't own one. I need to change that. I came really close to buying a really nice Charvel a few years ago. It was a Model 3 from 1988 actually. That's the reason I was going to buy it, because it was a birth year guitar, and it was a regular Strat style body but with the pointed Charvel headstock, and it was in like a neon pink colour, and I was so close to buying it. I actually it was on eBay and it was like £350, and I remember I was on holiday at the time, and I thought, right, I'll buy it when I get home. And as soon as I got home, I messaged the guy, and he sold it that morning. So I missed out on my first Charvel, but maybe one day I will finally get my hands on one. Halser loves the green. It's weird, but in a good way. Yeah, my thoughts exactly. It's a weird colour. It doesn't look like the sort of colour that you'd go out of your way to look for, but it is kind of cool, and it's quite unique, I think. So I do quite like it. It did grow on me. I'll admit, the first time I opened the case, I was a little bit confused or taken aback, but actually once I got the guitar out and kind of played it a bit, the colour did grow on me. So yeah, it's quite a nice colour. Headstock on the Kramer is so cool, and the Humbucker offset. Yeah, the Kramer headstocks are just, I mean, they're over the top, but they're, you know, they're iconic. They're 80s, they're pointy, they're big and oversized, but that's why we love them. And the same with the angled humbucker. So yeah, good noticing on that. I quite like the angled humbucker because it is a very 80s thing to do. For anyone who doesn't know why you would angle a humbucker, it's the same principle as a Strat. So what it does is it gives the high strings a little bit more presence because the pole pieces are slightly closer to the bridge, and then the lower strings, it just kind of rounds them off a little bit more, gives a little bit more depth to the lower notes. It's not a night and day difference, but you know, people do it, and it was just a big trait in the 80s. Everyone wanted more kind of pick attack and brighter sounds, and that was a good way to do it. So yeah, I do quite like that a lot of 80s guitars have that on them. Usually on these old 80s Superstrats as well, the bridge pickups don't have tone controls. So on this one, I know it's the case on my green one, but I can't remember 100% on this one, but the tone controls are only wired to the single cars, if I remember right. Yes, the tone controls don't actually do anything to the bridge pickup on this either. So it's just all the treble all the time. So if you like bright tones, get an 80s Superstrat. Do you like the PGM series of Ibanez Superstrats too? I love the PGMs. I just don't own one. I own one of the PGM minis. You can just about see it over the top of my finger there, the back of the headstock. That's one of the short scale PGMs, but I don't own a full size one yet. But it's a work in progress. I'm sure I'll pick one up at some point when one crosses my path for the right price. I really want the Ibanez Fireman as well. I do have a real soft spot for that guitar, even though it's quite out there and quite wacky. It's just something about it that I really like. Sally over on Facebook likes the green and gold Kramer. It's a great colour. It's interesting. It's a little bit different. The Adrian Smith is pretty much a Charvel, right? It's close to a San Dimas. Yeah, I guess so. Let's grab it. It's behind me somewhere. This is, yeah, it's pretty much the Charvel style. Even though this is a Jackson, it's kind of along that same line, isn't it? The Charvel San Dimas is pretty much the same deal. It's like a very traditional Strat style body with the classic headstock there. Jackson did make these style for a while as well. Obviously in the 80s, Adrian Smith was using these type of Jacksons, but this is obviously the newer Indonesian made one. It very much is the same ballpark as the San Dimas. I'd like to actually compare the two and find out what the big differences are, because I'm not actually sure how different they would be. And obviously they're owned and made by the same parent company as well. Both Charvel and Jackson fall under the Fender family of instruments. So it would be quite interesting to see what the difference is between the Charvel and the Jackson. Apparently the San Dimases have quite a unique neck profile, so I'd be interested in trying that. Dennis, I know what you mean about getting a birthday guitar. I wanted it forever. That's the 1961 Stratocaster Lefty. It's the first year Fender made a Lefty Strat. I don't see it happening. If you save up lots of money, it might happen. Those 60 Strats are going for crazy money at the moment, though. I haven't actually played a 60 Strat. I played a 50 Strat once, and that was great. It was nice. Is it worth the money? I don't know. It was a nice guitar, but I don't think it was infinitely nicer than any other guitar I've ever played. I just remember it was a nice guitar, you know. It wasn't the sort of thing that I'd rush out and spend 30 grand on, though. But a 60 Strat, yeah, you're talking, I mean, I think they're going for the best part of about 20 grand at the moment. Thanks to the great Eddie Van Halen, we have these wonders. He was a pioneer when it came to guitar because he loved Strats, but he also wanted a humbucker sound. This, even though this guitar is obviously tied to Adrian Smith from Iron Maiden because it's his signature model, it's actually a really versatile guitar. And I actually use this for gigs all the time where I'm not even playing rock, because even on a clean sound, those single coils, they're just really kind of sparkly and nice, and it can kind of do the position 4, that kind of quite quacky kind of John Mayer thing. So yeah, really versatile, even though you see Jackson on the headstock and you instantly think, ooh, Jackson, that's going to be a heavy guitar. It actually is very, very classic sounding. The only thing, and I mentioned this a few times actually, the only thing I would ever change about this guitar is probably the bridge pickup. It sounds great, but it's like, it's just not as inspiring as other bridge humbuckers I've tried. I say that actually, I'm playing it through the MXR Timmy today, and actually it sounds even better than it does through other pedals. So maybe that's it, maybe this is just a guitar I need to pair with the Timmy. Yeah, okay. Maybe I don't need to change the bridge pickup. Maybe I just need to use the Timmy more. And that was the takeaway from last week's live stream as well, is that I don't use the MXR Timmy as much as I should. Wayne Charvel sold Charvel to Grover Jackson, so technically all Jacksons are Charvels. Now I'm getting really deep and nerdy. That's not a bad thing. This is definitely the place for that. We can get as deep and as nerdy as we want. I quite like the fact that the guitars have that lineage, because even though they all fall under the Fender family, it's kind of interesting that they came home to Fender, because the original Charvels obviously being Superstrats, they've sort of found their way back to where they sort of came from, really. So it's quite interesting. But yeah, it's always good to get deep and nerdy. I think that's the whole point of these kind of streams. I love talking about those kind of things anyway. It's always fascinating. It's the same as Schecter. Schecter started out life as sort of a super strat hot rodding company as well in the 80s. I think that's where a lot of these guys came from. It was all sort of taking the Strat to the next level. Nothing wrong with the humbucker. You would lose position 4. Yeah, that also depends on which way you view the positions. Because I've always gone with 1 to 5, so 1 being the bridge and 5 being the neck. But I have heard people refer to it in reverse with 1 being the neck and 5 being the bridge. But the position you're obviously referring to is the bridge and middle. Yes, you do lose that conventional sound. You could remedy that if you were to change the pickup and you put something in with a coil split. I know a lot of HSS guitars do that, but I guess the reason they didn't go with it on this guitar is because you don't really use the bridge single coil on its own. Still sounds great in that position though. It doesn't lose too much definition from just being the humbucker. If anything, the humbucker actually makes it a little more honky, because I always think of the bridge and middle position as the Stevie Ray Vaughan Texas Flood kind of sound, but with a humbucker it's got a little bit more honk. Let's try it with some gain. Yeah, that sounds quite cool actually. It's got a little bit more of a honky kind of sound than a typical bridge and middle Strat. Perfecto's moved over to Facebook now. Which position fries the chips? All of them on this guitar. Every position on this guitar fries the chips. You know me, I'm the equivalent of a guitar. I'm the guitar equivalent of a train spotter. I bet you've got a list of serial numbers that you've seen in the wild as well. That would be taking that hobby to the extreme, I think. My 89 Fernandez does the same, no coil split. Yeah, it's kind of typical of HSS guitars. You do see some with, obviously, with the coil split. I'm on the fence about whether I like the coil split being there or not, because I don't use that Strat pickup position with the bridge and middle that much, but I do find the times that I take a guitar to a gig that doesn't have a coil split in the bridge pickup, they're usually the 5% of times that I do need that sound. So sometimes I miss it, but then 95% of the time I don't use it. So I'm kind of on the fence, but I guess it's handy to have the versatility there if you need it as well. I think about buying an Ibanez S671 ALB or a Schecter Sun Valley Super Shredder. Have you played either of them? I'm not sure what the S671 ALB is, because Ibanez have model numbers that don't give a lot away. The Sun Valley Super Shredder I can vouch for. That is a great guitar. I shot a demo of one of those 18 months ago, early last year. The Sun Valley Super Shredder with the Zerakote top, I think I shot. I can't remember exactly which one, but it was the 2 humbucker, Floyd Rose, all sort of dark exotic woods. Really, really cool guitar. So yeah, I can vouch for that one. If you've ever played the Schecter Nick Johnston Strat, it's pretty much the same feel, but with humbuckers and a Floyd. It's got a little bit more gas in the tank. It's like an aggressive version of that guitar. So yeah, really cool guitars. I really enjoyed that one. And I think it has a coil split as well. Timmy's really good for honk removal to get a BR mid sound. Yeah, it's a great kind of utility pedal, the Timmy. It can tame a lot of stuff because it was obviously designed to not colour your amp too much, but it does a really good job of not kind of doing too much crazy to your sound. Like, I've actually just got the treble cut left off there, so the treble you're hearing is just the treble from the amp. The only thing I have rolled off, I've rolled off a little bit of the bass. But that's about it. And I like the middle clipping position, which I think is the... Oh, I should know this. The asymmetric clipping? The one with the highest headroom, basically. That's the one I use, the one right in the middle. Because you've got one that's super compressed, and one that's high gain but not compressed, and then you've got the middle position, which is like not high gain or compressed, and that's the one I like, because it's the position of the three that's noticeably louder than the other positions as well. That's the one that I kind of gravitate the most towards. But Timmy's just a great pedal in general. It always sounds good. Metatoro, okay, thank you, no problem at all. They're both great guitars. Ibanez, I mean, I'm actually going to Google what the S671 ALB is. S671 ALB, because I don't actually know what that guitar is. It's one of the Axion Iron Label guitars. So actually, this is a cool guitar. These are, I've not played one of these models, but I mean, it's an Ibanez. They're pretty solid, pretty robust guitars. I like the finish on this. The only thing I don't like about the S series is these input jacks. I really don't like that design, because I always use the right angle cables, and if you've got an input jack there, you can't really use that. But it's pretty cool though. It works. Nice neck heel. That neck looks amazing. I'm guessing it's some kind of roasted maple. Looks really cool, or at least some kind of exotic wood. It's a great looking guitar. I like the reverse headstock. Yeah, you can't really go too wrong with either. They're going to be very different beasts. The Ibanez will feel much lighter and much kind of sleek, and the Schecter feels a little bit more robust. I will show you guys the Sun Valley Super Shredder for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, because that is a really cool guitar. So the one I demoed was this one. The one you asked for was I guess it was the same one, the Sun Valley Super Shredder Z. So I'm guessing that would be this one here. So this is the one that I demoed, the Sun Valley Super Shredder Exotic Zeracoti, and that's a really cool guitar. Yeah, I shot that about 18 months ago now. Really cool, sort of figuring on the tops. They're all really nice exotic woods. The back looks fantastic as well. Look at the back on that. Really, really cool. Yeah, this was a really fun guitar to demo. So yeah, you can't really go wrong with either. The Schecter is going to be the weightier one of the two. It's a good, robust guitar, and the Ibanez, I think, is going to be the lighter one of the two. DC, hey, nice to see you streaming live again. What's your opinion on the new Fender Made in Japan JV guitars? Overall quality, basswood body versus Alder. Any info on the SSS versions of it? I've not personally tried one, but let's take a look. So this is the new JV Modified series. So I've not actually tried these yet. Let's see what they are. So it looks like a brand new line. They've only announced this a week ago. So I don't know what these are going to be like personally. I mean, obviously the pictures I can see, they look quite cool. There's not a huge amount of information online about them, actually. I thought this would... there we go. That's what I was looking for, the Fender website. I thought it was a bit strange that hadn't come up. So the JV modified, classic aesthetics with modern playability. So I guess they've gone for those Japanese, really popular Japanese retro style guitars, but just kind of tweaked them up a bit for the modern guitar player. So yeah, basswood body, thick V maple neck. I don't like a V profile. I've tried a few guitars with V neck profiles and it's not my favourite. I'm sure it plays lovely though, but I personally, I can feel the tip of the V too much and I'm not really a fan. 9.5 radius board, vintage voice pickups. I mean, it's probably going to be good. Push-pull pot on tone 2 adds the neck pickup to positions 1 and 2. Okay, that's a nice touch. Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be a great guitar. The original JVs and all the Japanese Fenders are very kind of sought after instruments, so I don't think you'll go too far wrong with one of those. I think it'll be a good guitar, and they seem to retail for like just over £1,000 in the UK. So in the States that'll probably be like $1,400. So you know, fairly affordable. They're not sort of top end Fender prices. That Schecter is cool, yeah. That Schecter's very cool. That Ibanez has weird switching. Does it? I didn't notice the switching on it. Okay. So yeah, it actually has a 5-way switch that does a few different things. So the 5-way switch sort of doubles as a push-pull, or not a push-pull, but a coil split. So in the position 4, which would be like the Strat, neck and middle, you get the back or the front, depending on which way you look at this, of the neck pickup, the coil closest to the neck, and the middle pickup. So instant Strat there. And the same in this position here, you get those two coils. So that's quite cool. And then a push-pull for voice 1 and 2. I don't know what the voices would be on the Fishman Fluence because I'm not familiar with those pickups, but I guess it's like different EQ settings or something along those lines. With a 5-position switch for 2 humbuckers. It does have a single in the middle though. I missed that comment. It does have a single coil in the middle. So, yeah, it does. I had to double check then. Yeah, it's got the single coil in the middle, so it kind of doubles as a HSH guitar with some coil splitting. Quite interesting. Very versatile. The Floyd bridge with stainless screw. Great things. Crazy Schecter. Yeah, Schecter just making some really cool stuff. Ibanez with the switch gives really great cleans too. Ibanez do have very good clean tones. It's quite surprising that, again, it's like this guitar that I'm holding now. You kind of think that these are going to be heavy guitars for heavy playing, and, you know, they're not. They're super versatile and they can do loads of stuff. Gotta love Ibanez, and they're easy to remember names. Yeah, they're not the easiest names to remember, but you know, they work and they get the job done. Thank you for your opinion on the two guitars. No problem at all. Obviously, I can't speak too much about the Ibanez in terms of my experience with it because I've not played that model. But speaking as, you know, I've played other Ibanez guitars and I've always been impressed with Ibanez guitars. So I'm pretty sure that that one's going to be great as well, based on the other stuff that I've played. DC, maybe a used Prestige AZ2204. Yeah, the Prestige AZ models are great. I played one of those a couple of months ago at a friend's house, and yeah, can't fault those. They're like Ibanez's sort of answer to the HSS Strat. It's like HSS with a vintage trem. Really cool guitars. And yeah, you're right in saying about $1.5 in Europe. I think they retail about $2 brand new, but you do seem to be able to pick them up a lot in the second-hand market too. So yeah, someone asked me earlier about the Washburn, so I'm going to grab that one. This is a guitar that this has actually never been on a live stream before, so it's only fair. So yeah, this is a really fun guitar. I don't play this guitar enough, and I need to, it's my own fault because I need to restring it for one. But I blocked the Floyd on this with one of those tremolo devices, and I've since removed the lock, but the Floyd doesn't dive properly anymore, so it's sort of like half hardtail right now. I need to give this a real good setup. These are really cool guitars. If you want a Super Strat that's very lightweight, these are really cool. And if you're thinking it looks quite small, it is. It's a 3/4 size body. I think this is in tune. Let me check. This has actually got one of the nicest, and this is guitar player detail now, but this is one of the nicest fine tuners on a Floyd on this guitar. They're just so smooth and effortless. I really love the fine tuners on this thing. Unfortunately, it doesn't make you play like Nuno Bettencourt though. So anyone who is a fan of these guitars will know the history of them. There goes my pick. The Washburn N2. This is the signature model of the extreme guitar player Nuno Bettencourt. This is the more affordable version. This is actually a Indonesian one. This is a limited edition one, I think. I don't know how many of these are made, but there's something about this particular line that they made this year, whatever it was, 2010. There's not that many of these around. I don't know why. I'm not sure what the difference is between this and a regular N2, but it's a nice guitar though. I do like this thing. I really do need to play this one more. But yeah, these are really cool. Twin humbucker with a coil split. No tone control because we don't need a tone control to play rock, and a 3-way switch. What more do you need? And it's nice because the body is 3/4 size, but the rest of the guitar is full size. So it's really lightweight, so if you're gigging with this thing, it's a nice guitar to play for a long period of time. I'm a huge fan of Seymour Duncan JB. How do you feel about the Schecter Pasadena pickups compared to it? That's a good question. I suppose they're different. They're quite different things. The Pasadena pickups are nice though. The Pasadena pickups are sort of, they're great rock pickups, but they're not super hot. So you can play them and you can play heavy stuff with them, but because they're slightly vintage voiced, they handle non-high gain stuff really well too, which I think is very important for me at least. A guitar has to be versatile. So I do quite like the Pasadena pickups. I haven't played a JB set in a while though, so yeah, I can't really compare them directly off the top of my head, but the JBs are great as well. Get both sets. That would be my answer. I have one N4, I love it. Oh, I really want an N4. I couldn't stretch to buying an N4, which is why I bought the N2, because I couldn't afford the N4, but I would love one. This guitar, I always sort of looked for one of these, and I always kind of chased one. And this is a guitar that just kind of fell into my sort of vision at the right time. Or it wasn't the right time, but it arrived. So I'd always wanted one of these, and I just couldn't find one for the right price. I couldn't find one, you know, local enough that wasn't gonna cost me a fortune to ship, or, you know, all the usual stuff. There was a couple of them floating around the used market that were in a really bad state, and I didn't really want to pay a lot of money for a guitar that that wasn't great or wasn't in, you know, good condition. So I kind of put this one to the back of my mind, and I thought I'll eventually get one. I'll eventually find my Nuno Bettencourt guitar one day. And then went to see Extreme play live on their last tour, and it just kind of reignited that I've got to have one of those guitars. And then, just by sheer coincidence, luck, whatever you want to call it, the next day I posted a video on Instagram of the gig, and someone DM'd me and said, I'm selling one of those for, like, I think I paid like £300 for it. I'm selling one of those and I'm 10 minutes from your house. Do you want it? Yes, I want it. So I ended up, it just kind of fell into my sort of field at the right time. So yeah, I do love this guitar. There are some other cool alternative Superstrats you could take a look at. The Charvel HSS Red Ash, the Cort G300 Pro, and some Chapman Modern ML1s. Yeah, that's a good shout. Charvel, obviously, great. Cort, I've not played any Corts myself, but what I'm seeing, and from other friends in the YouTube world as well, the Cort stuff is really, really good at the moment. Their new stuff is meant to be great. Like I said, I've not personally played any, but people are really going in hard on the Cort stuff, saying they really like it. So I think there's definitely a bit of a sleeper there. I think they're going to be a brand to watch out for, especially if they keep up with the quality that they're apparently putting out. Chapman Modern ML1s. Yeah, Chapman are about to drop a bunch of new guitars. They've did like a little teaser video the other day with a new lineup, which look really cool. So yeah, those will be worth watching out for as well. By the way, should stainless steel frets be the new standard for guitars over 1 to 1.2K? Oh, there's a loaded question. I think we're seeing more and more of this happen, because what we're getting at the moment is we're getting brands like Harley Benton coming into the market, offering stainless steel frets for less than £350. So should it be a standard when you get to a premium guitar? I think, number one, it depends on the guitar. So I think if we're buying like a vintage spec'd Fender Strat, like the JV series we were just talking about, no, because that's not the right guitar for stainless steel frets. But if you're buying a modern guitar, so Jackson Charvel, Ibanez, maybe even the new Kramers that are on the market right now, absolutely yes. If we're buying a modern high-performance instrument, stainless steel frets should be the new standard. Does the fret material make a difference to the tone? Because obviously vintage guitars have nickel frets. That is a question in itself. But I think in terms of feel, stainless steel frets do have that slightly more premium feel. And I think if you're looking for a high-performance guitar, that's definitely the way to go. But then if you really want the vintage vibe, you probably don't want stainless steel frets. But I think it should be the new standard in some ways. It's the same as roasted maple. We're seeing roasted maple now on guitars that, you know, are £300, £400, whereas before roasted maple was sort of, you know, that's for the guys who want to spend serious money on their guitars. Other very impressive, very lightweight would be the Ibanez S512. Yeah, the S512 is sort of a classic, really, isn't it? When you think of light, thin-bodied Superstrats, that's kind of one of the industry standards, I think, right there, with a 5-way switch. Yeah, those are really cool. Crystal clear cleans on an otherwise shredder machine. Apparently they are great for shredding on as well. They look like they'd be great for shredding. Nuno is a genius. He is a genius. Nuno is just... he's not human. The guy is not human. Anton, love the colour, mango mustard. That's an interesting description. I think Washburn just referred to it as natural, but yeah, it's just whatever the wood is, it's the colour of the wood. But I guess it's got a slight yellowy orange sort of tint to it. Some of that I think is the age as well. The guitar is sort of 12 years old and it's been used. So I think these kind of things, it's sort of a satin finish as well, and those do change colour slightly as they get older as well. All Ibanez guitars sound like droids from Star Wars. They do. They could come up with some catchier names, I think. Have you had that longer than the Blue Les Paul? I can't remember what guitar I was holding when you asked that question, but no. Because all the guitars I've talked about so far, I've only owned for the last couple of years, whereas the Blue Les Paul I've owned for 20 years this year, I think. That guitar's been with me a long time. Or maybe 18 years this year. I got it in 2003. So someone do the math. 19 years. I've owned that Blue Les Paul 19 years. So that has been with me quite a while. Ian Hyman, do you like Luke Morley from Thunder? I do. Luke is a guitar player that I've not really gone too much into his style. But I like Thunder as a band. They got great songs. Luke is a great player. He is a really nice guy. I met him once and he's just super cool, really friendly, great player. But as a player, I've not sort of taken direct influence from him because I've not dug into his style too much, but I do like what he does. I saw earlier that Palm Bay Guitars are doing offers on their stuff, and they had some very interesting Superstrats. That's a brand I don't know yet, Palm Bay Guitars, so I'll have to check those out. I'm going to have to do some research. Every time I look online for Superstrats, though, I always end up accidentally buying one. So I'm going to try and not look. Reverse headstocks give you that incredible spank on the thicker strings for drop tuning. The key to Nuno is to nail chromatic licks for 2 note per string style arpeggios. The other thing with Nuno is the whole, I'm going to show myself up here because I'm terrible at doing this, but it's that tapped arpeggio thing. That's just how he does that at the speed he does it, I don't know. But that has destroyed me for many years trying to play. Every time I try and play Nuno stuff, I just get it so wrong. I'm quite content with some of the riffs, but yeah, the lead stuff always breaks me. But you're right in the chromatic thing. He does like his chromatics, like the riff from Decadence Dance. There's a lot of kind of chromatic movements in there. So yeah, he's really interesting that he goes down that road, because not a lot of players use that kind of stuff in that kind of context, but Nuno's got nice articulation as well. So whenever he plays, he's busy, but you hear every note, which I think is really cool. And yeah, in answer to the reverse headstock question, this guitar is great for down tuning. I've used this in drop C sharp a few times with the Floyd completely locked. And yeah, that extended scale length that this gives you just really tightens up those low strings. Thanks for the answer regarding stainless steel frets, especially for the explanation for vintage versus modern instruments, but it really does influence the tone. But does it really influence the tone that much, or is it just for purist SS frets are for life? Yeah, no, that's kind of the fence that I'm stuck on as well. I don't know if it influences the tone. I mean, in theory it would. In theory, every part of the guitar influences the tone. Obviously, there are people who agree with that, and there are people who massively disagree. But I do think whatever you do to a guitar, if you add or take something away, it's going to have some influence on the sound, whether that's a perceivable influence or whether it's, you know, a scientific influence. That's a different story again. Stainless steel frets are for life, though. You are right in saying that. You don't need to refret them. I guess maybe there's a feel thing. Like softer frets maybe feel slightly different to certain players. I've personally never really been that bothered in that, you know, if I like how a guitar feels, I don't really think too much about the spec. I just think, you know, if it has stainless steel frets, then cool, and if it doesn't, then that's also cool. But yeah, is it for purists, or does it influence the tone? I don't know. Interesting question, though. I can't decide whether to have my 86 Fender Strat refret, my 86 Fender Japanese Strat refretted, or buy a new neck. Thoughts? Don't put that one on me. Oh man, that's tough. I have a similar dilemma. I have a Strat here, my Tokai Strat, which is from 82 or 83, made in Japan as well. And I kind of have the same problem in that the frets are just getting to that point now where they're still fully playable, but there's a little bit of fret sprout at the top of the neck, and some of the frets have sort of dents in them from, you know, 40 years of gigs. And I'm kind of in that position where it's like, this might need a refret in the next few years, but will it change the guitar? So yeah, I'm kind of on the fence about that. I mean, if you take it to a good luthier who understands what you want from the guitar, then it shouldn't make too much of a difference. One of my most sentimental guitars, which was mentioned earlier on actually, is a blue Epiphone Les Paul that I've had since I was very young. And that was the guitar that I used on like every band I played in. You know, it's been on tour countless times. It's played thousands of gigs, and I like fretted so hard when I was younger. I used to play really aggressively, and I literally wore the frets pretty much down to the fretboard. And I had to sort of submit a few years ago and get it refretted. And I was so worried because, you know, I thought this guitar is kind of like an extension of me. I don't want it to feel different. Luckily, the guy that I know that did the refret has known me since I had the guitar. So he kind of knew, you know, he knew the history of the guitar. He knew what it meant to me. So he refretted it with that in mind, to make it kind of feel like it was played in a bit. So if you take it to a good luthier and explain to them that it's an 80s Strat, and obviously you don't want to change the feel, a good luthier should be able to give you a fret job that won't take away from the guitar. Enjoy the channel. Cheers from Canada. Thank you very much, Axlinger. Always nice to hear people from overseas checking out the stuff. Not really cost, but what's best for my favourite guitar? Ah, right, okay. Extension of the same question. Refret or new neck? A refret, has it had a refret before? If it has, then I'd say just go for it again. But obviously make them aware that you don't want it to change how the guitar feels. Nuno licks, wow, great. I tried to do Nuno licks. It's not my strong point. I was never a shredder. I never grew up wanting to shred. But when I heard Nuno, I kind of wanted to get into that. But yeah, I didn't have the patience. I was always more of a blues player. If you had to keep one guitar in your life, what would it be? A Superstrat. It's a good question. Yeah, probably. If I could only have one guitar. If we're talking about functionality more than anything else, a Superstrat, because it does everything. Sentimentally, it would be my old blue Les Paul, because that's the guitar that I've had forever. For me, it would be my N4. That's a great choice as well. You can't go wrong with having an N4 as your only guitar. That Tokai is so nice. It is nice. I love that Tokai. It's a great guitar. It was the guitar that got me interested in Strats, because I was never really that interested in Strats. Growing up, I loved Strat players. Like, I was always a big fan of Eric Clapton and other, like Hendrix and other guys that played Strats. But when I tried to play Strats, I could never get the sound that I liked from them. And I just didn't feel at home on a Strat. And I guess part of that was, you know, growing up listening to 80s music. The Superstrat was always the thing. It was like, I need a humbucker and a Floyd Rose to kind of get my sound. And then I was playing with a band at the time, and I needed a Strat sound. And so I sort of thought to myself, well, I'll just buy, you know, I'll buy something that's kicking around the secondhand market for quite cheap. I didn't want to spend a lot of money. And someone I knew was selling that one. And the second I put my hand on the neck, I was like, I like Strats now. And that literally completely converted me to a Strat lover. So yeah, they're great guitars. Early 80s Tokais, if you can find one of those, I'd highly recommend one. I think that's the most eloquent explanation on the Tonewood stainless steel frets discussion I've heard in 3 years since I've been watching guitar YouTube. Thank you. That's no problem. I just think it's one of those things that, you know, we can all go too far down the rabbit hole. And I think sometimes guitar players, and I've done this, I'm guilty of this as well, we can be too hung up on specs. But really the answer is, who cares? Have you ever gone to watch a band live and, you know, been watching your favourite guitar player and thought, that doesn't sound like he's playing stainless steel frets to me? If you've never asked that question at a gig, it kind of tells you all you need to know. Really, I think gear and, you know, specs and all that stuff, it's just different ways to inspire us. And if having stainless steel frets inspires you to play better, like the Tonewood debate, if you like a certain type of wood because in your head that makes you a better player or it makes you sound better, then that's cool. And if you're not fussy, then that also works, because it's just about being inspired. It's about just kind of finding the stuff that works for you, you know. I think that's why I try not to think about it too much. Obviously I talk about specs when I do demos on YouTube. I have to talk about spec because that's the point of the video, to tell you guys the spec of certain instruments, but it always comes down to the feel. And I think if it feels right, you can't really complain. I think as long as something feels good and it sounds good, the specs are irrelevant, because you might have a list of specs that you absolutely hate. You might not like a certain type of wood, but you may hear a guitar that sounds like the best, you know, let's say you hate Swamp Ash, and then you hear the best sounding telly in the world, and you think, I've never heard a telly that sounds that good before, and then you find out that it's Swamp Ash. Does knowing that fact change what you think about the guitar? I don't think it does. So yeah, it's interesting. It's always a fun topic to talk about though, isn't it? Never had a refret, but same situation as your Talk-Eye. Thanks for the explanation. Yeah, I would definitely consider a refret. I mean, buying a new neck is just a bit of a pain. Obviously, you'd have to take the old neck off, and that in itself could open up some rabbit holes. If there's any problems with the neck pocket and you buy a new neck, you know, it's probably not best to change the neck. But yeah, I don't know. I would go with a refret, but under the expectation that the luthier is going to do it to a certain standard. Don't just go with anyone. Like, ask around, find out who the best are in your area. We have the same problem. See it, want it, buy it. Palm Bay were founded in Wales as an in-house brand for cranes. Okay, I didn't know that. So Palm Bay is a Superstrat brand that we're talking about on Facebook. Cranes, for anyone watching who's not from Wales, they were a local South Wales chain of music stores that is now no longer with us. But that was apparently their in-house brand. So if there's some stuff going for cheap, might be worth checking out for anyone looking for some Superstrats. I find with stainless steel frets, the only major difference is the feel. They feel way smoother because they don't tarnish. So there we go. That's a nice way in there on the the stainless steel debate. They feel slightly smoother. I get that. Yeah, they don't tarnish. They don't age as much. Obviously, they're going to last you way longer. You're probably not going to wear down a set of stainless steel frets as quick as, you know, like a soft nickel alloy fret. Okay, I'm very heavy-handed. My playing wear down frets quite a lot. Yep, I've done that. That's I've been there. Definitely a fan of stainless steel frets, unless I'm the one installing them. Then I hate them until the job's done. I'm quite happy to give any guitar maintenance a go. And I've done a couple of videos in the last year where I've butchered various mod jobs on different guitars, because I'm a hobbyist guitar modifier. I just do it because I like doing it. But the frets I would never touch. The only thing I've ever done with frets is filing down the ends if there's ever any sharp ends. But I don't think I'd be brave enough to have a go at changing frets. Yeah, I don't see me doing that anytime soon. Maybe one day I'll get brave enough, but for the time being, I have a guy that does them for me, and I'm happy to pay him to do that, because knowing me, I'll get it wrong and I'll ruin a good guitar. I'm the sort of guitar modifier that I try to change the frets and I'd end up with a scalloped fretboard accidentally, so I'm going to stay away from that. Is Wales a country? We are a country. Most people don't realise we are, but we are. We're part of the United Kingdom, which is 4 separate countries in one. So England being the one that everyone knows, Scotland and Ireland, and then we're kind of tagged on in the southwest. Just a little bit that sort of pops out between Ireland and England. We are a country, but yeah, most people think that we're part of England, but we are our own place. We're meant to be anyway. Is the old crane store now PMT in Cardiff? I haven't been there for a good few years. No, PMT is... I'm sure my Cardiff geography is terrible now. PMT is at the bottom of the main street, away from the castle. This is irrelevant for anyone who's never been to Cardiff before. But PMT is down the bottom of the street, near where the... I'm going to say the Hard Rock Cafe, even though that's been gone for like 10 years. Towards the bottom of whatever the main road is, on the way to the arena. Cranes used to be at the top by the castle, so it's a different building. When it comes to wood, is basswood really that inferior tonally when we take into consideration that Sir used basswood body and full maple cap? I don't think so. The problem with basswood is, or the problem basswood has, is that it's a cheap alternative, or cheaper alternative. But you can get different grades of any wood. You can get really good mahogany, and you can get really cheap mahogany. And I think basswood's kind of the same. You get cheap basswood, you can get good basswood. I guess the reason it has a bad reputation is because it's cheap. It's often used on lower price guitars. So a lot of your kind of entry-level Ibanez guitars, maybe even some of the entry-level Squier stuff, they would typically be made from basswood. Is it inferior tonally? I don't think so. It's slightly lighter weight than, you know, maple or alder, but I don't think it's particularly inferior. I think it obviously it will have its, again, tone wood here, it'll have its own sound. We are going down that rabbit hole. It will have its own sound because it's a different type of wood, obviously, but if that sound is inferior, that's down to the person hearing that sound. You might hear the best grade of quilted maple, mahogany, whatever you want to use, in the world, and you might hate the way that guitar sounds because the guitar sound is a sum of all its parts. I think the wood is part of that, but it's not all of it. It's, you know, it's everything that makes the sound. You could have a £10,000 PRS and put rubbish pickups in it. It might be made from the best wood in the world, but if the pickups aren't great, there's another compromise tonally. So everything, I think, has to kind of fit together. So I think Serbian basswood, that doesn't really make a difference. Most of my guitars are worthless part casters that I love, so if I mess up a fret job, it's just a cheap eBay neck replacement. Yeah, I've thought about buying, you know, some of those kit guitars that you can get, and maybe just kind of going in at one of those and seeing what I can do. But yeah, again, I'd still probably mess it up and be annoyed even if it was a cheap guitar. Hey Eric, how's it going? Leon, PMT is next to Gamlins. There we go, PMT is next to Gamlins. My Cardiff geography is terrible. And Wales has a national football team that is going to the World Cup this year. There we go, you heard that first from Metataro. I know nothing about football, but I know we do have a team. I just don't know anything about the actual sport. I was trying to align the neck on my G&L Sat, and between unscrewing, pulling and screwing back, I stripped the mounting holes on the neck, so yeah, I can't be trusted with a string change. It's so easy to do. Obviously, if you're... This is one of the reasons, again, I think it's a real pain to just keep taking the neck on and off, because you can't really easily strip those screws. And once you strip the screws that hold the neck in place, there's nothing to grip onto. You'd have to fill the hole and re-drill it, which if you're an amateur modder, that's a real pain. I've only ever done it once before where I've had to drill a neck, and I hated it. So I leave those well alone. unless there's a compelling reason I need to take the neck off a guitar, I pretty much won't even bother. The only reason I would ever take a neck off a guitar is if I needed to do something in the neck pocket, which again, why would you ever need to go in there? So yeah, I would, well, in the case of Quicksilver though, aligning the neck, that's a pretty good reason. But yeah, it's a dangerous path to tread. PMT is on the corner of Chippy Lane by the Brewery Quarter. There we go, another bit of Cardiff geography there. If Perfecto is still in the chat, either on Facebook or Instagram, this is a place he would like. So a few of us, me, Perfecto de Castro, a couple of the UK YouTubers like Adam Steele and CGS and Henning, we're always having this debate about chips versus fries, because in the UK we call fries chips, and I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but we have a place, Perfecto if you're watching, we have a place called Chippy Lane, which is an entire street of chip shops, so I think you'd enjoy that if you ever come to Cardiff. Crane's was a seafood restaurant last I knew. I haven't been to Cardiff properly in a long time, so I don't know. Basswood is light and resonant, but it's super soft, easy to dent and wear out the screw holes on. Its original purpose was to make decoy ducks for hunting because it's buoyant in water if painted. I didn't know that, but that's an interesting. There's an interesting story there. So, if you have a basswood guitar and you decide to throw it into a lake, it should float because it's buoyant. So that's always good to know. A lot of guitars swear by basswood. Paul Gilbert, for example. Yes, the Ibanez PGM's a basswood. Again, lightweight. If you're playing a gig for 3 hours and you stood up, you don't really want 5 kilos of wood hanging on your neck, do you? If you need to fix the holes in that G&L, dowel it up with matchsticks. That's the easiest fix and requires no glue if you jam them in right. I've done that that repair for strap buttons quite a lot. If you ever find your strap buttons are loose, put an old matchstick in there, snap it off, and then screw the strap button back in, and the matchstick kind of fills a little bit of a gap. I've been as far north as Aberdeen, then down to Glasgow, Stirling and Edinburgh in Scotland. Very nice people. I hope the same if I make it to Wales. Wales is a lot like Scotland. It's not as cold. It rains more than Scotland, but Scotland's colder than Wales. But yeah, if you ever make it down to Wales, there's a lot of cool places to see, mostly around the coast. Most of the middle of Wales is pretty much just mountains and forests. So if you like mountains and forests, there's loads of that there. The high E string has fallen off the fretboard. Yeah, that's definitely a reason to adjust the neck, I think. If the high E string is going going a little bit AWOL, you definitely need to get that aligned. I'm assuming by now you fixed it though and it's all good as new again. So I also mentioned we'd look at some pedals, which we've kind of gone down a bit of a rabbit hole. I've got some pedals and I've been so busy editing the stuff for my guitar course I haven't actually opened these pedals yet, and really I'm mentioning this because I'm looking for an excuse to open them because they've just been sat on my shelf. So these arrived a couple of weeks ago, and regrettably I should have probably opened them sooner by now. These are from Sonic, and they've sent me these really cool, they're budget pedals, but they're really interesting sort of clones of higher end products. So I think it'll be quite interesting to do some videos with these. So this thing is the Shark, which I think, if I remember right, is their take on, is it the Marshall Shredmaster? I'm sure someone in the comments will probably be able to help with this. I'm going to plug it in. I'm going to plug a few of these in and we'll just have a listen to them while we talk. So the Sonic Shark, I think it's a distortion pedal. I think. It's the first time I've unplugged my Timmy in a week as well. The high gain classic distortion. So I actually think, this is kind of like a Marshall Shredmaster, if that's the one I'm thinking of, or maybe a Governor. I think it's based around that sort of idea. It's got a little dip switch as well. Modern, normal or classic. I like the sound of classic. I have no idea what this is going to sound like. It's literally the first time I'm plugging it in, so let's... My tuner's on, that's a good start. That sounds really 80s, I'm into that. That's just literally the pedal with everything set to 12 o'clock on the classic mode. I'm guessing modern goes a bit high again. That's way more gain than I'll ever need. I like the classic sound though, that's actually really fun. I'm into that. And normal mode. Okay, first impressions, pretty good. I like that. That's pretty fun. I'm going to look forward to demoing that one. I think that's going to make a very fun video. So that is the Sonicake Shark. So I've just dropped all my cables on the floor, which isn't ideal. Okay, so I got a few more. Chorus, Cloud Chorus, Sonic Ambience, or Blue Screamer. So the Blue Screamer, I'm going to save for last because that's an overdrive. What you guys want, chorus or reverb? What are we thinking? I think both will be fun. What should we hear first? So we've got the Cloud Chorus. I'm not sure if this is a clone of anything specific. And the Sonic Ambience. Now this looks like a real tweakers pedal. There's a lot of stuff going on this one. This is a reverb pedal, which has reverb and delay. Sorry, my bad. Delay and reverb in one, with 4 different types of delay, 4 different types of reverb, or a simple chorus. What do we want to hear first? Chorus or reverb? I would plug them both in, but I've only got one spare slot on my pedal board, so I'm swapping things in and out for the time being. I think it's a 3-in-1 Marshall clone, Shredmaster, Governor, and Bluesbreaker. Now that would make sense. That would make a lot of sense what the Shark is. The Blues Screamer, I'm guessing, is also a Bluesbreaker. I'm guessing. But the Shark sounds really cool. I like the classic sounds on that, actually. I'm really, like, I didn't expect it to be that good. I knew it was going to be pretty good, but I didn't think it'd be that good. I haven't played any Sonicake stuff for a long time. They were one of the first brands I ever did videos for. I mean, even before I was even a YouTube channel, I literally just got into video making, and they were probably the first brand I ever dealt with. When they used to do these sort of like these 4-in-1 pedal bars. They were like this long, quite thin things with like 4 different effects in. Really fun. So we've had a vote for reverb there from Anton. Any other takers, reverb or chorus? Otherwise we're going for the reverb. Anton's winning so far. You've got 5 seconds to to decide. Otherwise Anton wins there with his chorus. But yeah, the Shark is definitely going to be a fun one to demo. I'm looking forward to the Blue Screamer as well, just because I like those kind of sounds. So I don't think we've had any other takers unless there's a massive delay on the chat. So I'm just going to plug in the Sonic Ambience. You can't really see it very well there because it's not focusing. So this is a delay and reverb in one. So this is the sort of pedal that I suspect I would need to sit down and tweak. So you're hearing a little bit of spring reverb there from my spring reverb tank on top of my amp. So we're going to be stacking reverbs a little bit here, because that is, you can't switch that off. It's just in line with the amp. It's one of those things you can't actually turn off unless you have a foot switch for it. So I'm just going to stack some more reverb on top. This is it's definitely a tweaker's pedal, so this is probably going to be a loud soup of ambient noise for the next couple of seconds. So I'm just going to set everything to midnight. There's 4 different types of reverb: R, H, C, and P. So I'm going to say room, hall, church, and plate. And then 4 different types of delay, really small: A, D, T, and R. I don't know what R means. Reverse, analog, digital, T. I don't know what T would mean. And reverse, maybe? I don't know. Let's find out. Let's just make a bunch of... Oh, and this coil splits as well, so I'm going to go into single coil mode. Reverb, that's just the delay. And then I'll add the reverb back in. There's a lot of ambience in that. That's with the mix only on halfway as well. That's really cool. I think this is going to be a fun pedal to demo. Obviously I have no idea what I'm doing with it right now. I'm literally just turning things and playing. Okay, that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to enjoy that one. That's the Sonic Ambience. Lots of spacey stuff going on there, which is going to be quite fun. Let's plug in the Cloud Chorus. Now, I always talk about Chorus. I like Chorus. It's very 80s, it's very cheesy, it's very dated, but I like it because I am cheesy and dated and 80s. So let's hear some Chorus. So this is just going to be 80s-tastic, so everything straight to midnight. Okay, that wasn't actually as 80s as I thought it was going to be. It's actually a bit more warmer than I was expecting. It must be an analog chorus, like very kind of sort of 70s chorus. It's quite nice though. It's not as chorusy as I'd like. I really like choruses like this, which isn't working right now. This is the IK Multimedia Amplitude X Vibe that I've got on my desk. This is the kind of chorus I like. That sort of 80s shimmer at the top. It's such a cheesy effect. It's so cheesy and so dated, but it's just something so fun about it. So that's quite a cool one. I'm going to look forward to really digging into these things. So the last one, what have we got here? The Blue Screamer. This, I'm guessing, is their take on the Blues Breaker type circuit. So this is 3 knobs, loud and warm mode. Pretty simple, portable drive. Black and blue color scheme, which probably tells you it's a Blues Breaker. And for some reason, my guitar power supply's just died. Okay, there we go, we're back. Mute that. It was my fault. I touched the connector on the end of something and it shorted out. Okay, Blue Screamer. So what am I on now? I'm on the warm mode. So the 12 o'clock test is always a good place to start with drive pedals. Needs a bit more volume though. Okay, so the loud mode is a lot louder. Okay, so that's fun. That's going to be a fun one as well. I think that's Blues Breaker-ish, but actually I thought the Blues Breaker sound on this thing actually sounded a little bit better, but, you know, I'm going to dig into them properly when I have the chance. Waiting on a Gretsch G522 Walnut Stain Broadtrons. Are they naff? I like the Broadtrons. They're different. It's a different type of pickup. It's not a humbucker or a single coil. It's a slightly more unique thing. Gretsch is great if you want a unique sound. It doesn't sound like anything else. Everyone loves pinched harmonics. Yeah, I love them as well. I try not to overuse them because they can be a bit too much, but they are fun. Gotta love a live premiere. Yeah, it's a bit different. I thought I would see how we do this week with premiering something live. But yeah, that's the first time I've ever actually done that on the stream as well. First time I've sort of pulled up a new product without without testing it first. So yeah, how did you find that? Let me know if you want to see more of that kind of stuff on the streams as well, because I've got a couple of other things in my queue that maybe we could open up next week as well. Tempted to turn a Gretsch G522 into a Malcolm Young look with just one TV Jones pickup. That would be a good project. Probably be quite easy to do as well, because obviously the guitar is already halfway there with the looks. The only thing you'd need to do is just beat it up a little bit. Just sort of give it a hard time, smash it up a little bit and make it look a bit more like Malcolm's. You almost had the chords to Def Leppard's Hysteria there. That's what I was going for. Without, you know, breaching the copyright rules. I was hinting at the Hysteria thing. I was kind of in the ballpark. It's the same chords. It's like a D, but played in a slightly C form. Then you had a G in the bass, E minor add 9, back to the G over D. Classic Def Leppard there, but yeah, very close. I didn't want to play it exactly just in case, because I have heard of live streams getting shut down for that kind of thing. So I thought I won't tempt fate too much. I'll just hint at Def Leppard. But that's always my go-to thing as well. Whenever I have chorus, my go-to thing is like a sus chord on single coils. There's just something so 80s about that chord. Just works. It's just the ultimate 80s chord, I think. A sus2 chord. Some comments aren't showing on my iPad but are on the TV. That is strange. I have no idea why that might be. I wonder, because I'm streaming to Facebook at the same time tonight, I wonder if the Facebook comments maybe aren't showing on your iPad. They should, because it's the same stream, but I don't know. That's the mystery of YouTube. Liking the sound of the Blue Screamer, very jumpered plexi. Yeah, it does have a plexi kind of vibe. I think this is going to be the sort of pedal that I really need to kind of sit down and tweak. The loud to warm mode is really interesting because it's so much of a difference in volume. But I think this is going to be, it's definitely Blues Breaker-esque. But it's very loud in the loud mode. It kind of has that that sort of low-end chewiness that a cranked plexi has. It's maybe not as blues breakery as I thought. Maybe it's not even based on a blues breaker. I'm literally just assuming that because of the name. But it does have that kind of chewy thing that a plexi has, whereas a blues breaker is a little bit more crisp in the top end. And this is now with max gain, so this isn't a super high gain thing. So yeah, not super high gain, but does give you that kind of nice chewy sort of Marshall sound. It would be killer for Thin Lizzy tones. It would, yeah. Definitely getting that kind of cranked Thin Lizzy sort of Marshall tone. I do have the pedal set quite extreme there as well. I've got the gain on full. The tone is like 80% of the way up and the volume's on half. So there's not a huge amount of sort of push on this thing in terms of gain. But I think this would stack really nicely with other pedals as well. I think this one that I played first, that's going to have way more gain in the tank. So yeah, that's going to be a fun video. Thomann briefly took pre-orders of the Marshall Governor and Blues Breaker. I placed my order a while back but no longer show on their site. I wonder if they will fulfill my order in the future. Yeah, this is interesting. Apparently, and no one really knows this for definite, because it seems like Thomann have slipped up with this. Apparently Marshall are reissuing the Blues Breaker, which, if they are, is really, really cool. I actually own one of the original ones, which is a great pedal. The only criticism I have of it, which is the same criticism everyone has, is that it just doesn't have that much volume. It's pretty much like, you know, 90% of the way up is unity gain. So it's not great for boosting, but it's great just as a gain stage. But apparently Marshall are bringing them back in the old form. So the original Blues Breakers, the big black box ones, were pretty cheap when they were new. Then they kind of went away. Loads of people bought them. They shot up in value. And then Marshall brought out the sort of the mini version of it, which weren't as popular and didn't sound as good. So the price on the original ones now, I think, is somewhere around the £400 mark. They're pretty pricey. But apparently they're coming back. But Thomann listed them on the website for pre-order and then took them down when loads of people realised and started ordering them. So I don't actually know whether Marshall are bringing these things back. Whether it's going to be a thing, I don't know. But it would be cool if they did, because the prices were like £130. Like, very affordable. So if they bring it back, I will absolutely be buying one, because why not? I want to compare it to my old one. But yeah, it would be interesting to find out if they do fulfill the order. Here we go. Marty McFly. Hi Leigh, if you could only pick one to play for a year, would it be a Les Paul Strat, Superstrat or Telly? That is it's a tricky question. One to play for a year, I would probably go Strat or Superstrat. I would maybe lean more into the Superstrat realm, because Les Pauls I love. I grew up playing Les Pauls, and I always have a soft spot for Les Pauls. But these days, I find that they're just not versatile enough for what I need. So if I need, to me, like, a Les Paul has a sound, and if I'm looking for that sound, then it's the perfect guitar. But 9 times out of 10, I need a guitar that can do that sound plus a bunch more. that's where I lean more towards the Strats and Superstrats, because you've got like a bridge humbucker which gives you the fat rock sound, and then single coils. Yeah, probably a Superstrat, but a Superstrat with a vintage tremolo, not the Floyd Rose. That would probably be my change out there. I wouldn't have a Superstrat with a Floyd, because Floyds are a little bit of a pain, and I kind of prefer vintage tremolos to Floyd Roses, because I'm not really that much of a dive bomber, so I don't need the extremities of a Floyd. Must be a difference between Facebook and YouTube streaming, possibly. It could well be. I'm not fully sure. I would have assumed it would have shown both, but the internet is a strange place. It does all sorts of weird and wonderful things, as we all know. My favourite pedal ever is my Mark 1 Made in England Governor. I've played loads of pedals over the years, as you know, but nothing comes close. Way too scared to gig it in case it gets lost or stolen. Do you know, that's the exact same reason why I don't gig my Blues Breaker, because they're just so rare, the original ones, that I don't want to take it to a gig and have someone break it. But also the switches on those old Marshall pedals are quite flimsy, and loads of people have said to me, oh, you could just mod the switch. But I don't really want to change the switch if I don't have to, because then I'm taking apart the vintage pedal and changing something for no real reason. So I've kind of retired it from gigging. I just use it for fun at home. That was the whole reason that this came into my life, because this is sort of the Blues Breaker thing. Granted, these cost more than the original Blues Breakers, but being modern pedals, this isn't going to break after like a week. Whereas I think if I take out my 35-year-old Blues Breaker, it might not make it through a gig, because the switches are quite flimsy. So that was the whole reason I got a King of Tone, is because I wanted a Blues Breaker style pedal that I could take out and gig that wasn't going to break. So that's where that one came along. But I'm always interested in trying different variations on that circuit anyway. The Governor is a great drive pedal as well. That's a really cool one. That's like the sort of the middle of the range. The Blues Breaker was the lower gain one. The Governor was your sort of pushed plexi sort of vibe. And then they had the Shredmaster then, which was, you know, this is the highest gain one in the range. Have you tried a wet-dry ampless rig using only preamp pedals and IR loaders? I'm attempting this with the new X stuff and using Tech 21 pedals as preamps. That's interesting. No, I've never really dabbled with the wet-dry thing. Whenever I do stereo, if I ever take 2 amps to a gig, I just run them both the same. So, like, wet into both amps. I'm trying to think if I've ever done it. I don't think I've ever actually needed to do a wet-dry thing. Maybe I'll try it sometime, but I've not tried it with preamp pedals. The closest I've come to that kind of thing was I did a gig last year where we were playing in quite a big hall, and I needed some stage volume, but I also needed a feed to the PA. So I had my pedal board with a split, and I had this going out to the front, which is the Walrus Audio ACS1, which is like an amp in a box kind of thing. I had it running on a Fender style amp. Oh, actually, maybe this will count, because this doesn't have reverb in it. It has like an ambience, which is like a room ambience, but it's not reverb as such. So I had this, my pedal board, into this, run into the PA, and then the split then went to a live amp on stage, which I did have a reverb pedal feed in. So kind of like dry-ish to the PA. It wasn't fully dry, but it's slightly dry, and then wet on stage. I guess that kind of counts, but I'm not using only amp sims. I was using a real amp with an amp sim, and the amp sim was feeding the in-ears as well. So I had the live amp on stage, but what I heard was the preamp of the ACS, I think. I can't really remember, but yeah, I've done a similar kind of thing. Maybe there's a supply issue as the release got pushed back to summer NAMM. Possibly. I do know that there have been a lot of supply chain issues with, obviously, the last 2 years alone, with all the COVID stuff, stuff not being able to get shipped from different places. That obviously caused backups in different supply chains, and some of the things going on at the moment have also caused a few issues with different supply chains. So I do think maybe a lot of pedal companies are probably running low on certain parts, which again would probably explain why there might be a delay there. Hopefully they do release them soon though. Time will tell. I would love to see one if they do decide to put them out though. The switch on my governor sticks, so it's a home and recorded only pedal. Yep, I'm with you 100% on that. I gigged it only one time. I took out a 1970 high watt custom 100 stack that was pure clean. I can only imagine how loud that was. Needed a pedal and nothing else did the right tone. My back voted never to gig that rig again. Yeah, was it a full stack as well? Because if it was a full stack, I agree. That's something that I've been victim to that myself. I used to always take a 100 watt Marshall head everywhere with me with a 4x12 because I just thought I needed it. And the last sort of 2 years worth of gigs I've done, I've used that Black Star right there, the Studio 10 6L6. It's a Class A 10 watt amp, and that's literally what I gig with now. If I take an amp at all, if I'm not using that, I'm using like a combination of like the HX Stomp XL. I use the Blue Guitar Amp 1 or the Walrus Audio ACS. I do chop and change that quite a lot, but if I do take an amp, it's literally a 10 watt single 6L6 amp, which actually is the amp I'm using right now as well. So what you're hearing is that amp through the 2 Notes Captain X, which is just out of shot by here, with some drive. I run it loud but clean. So this is my usual setting. So nothing too crazy, just very simple, basic clean tone, and then I just stack loads of stuff on top. But I do like that pedal, that amp, not pedal. I'm a big fan of that amp. And yeah, just for gigs, that's all you need. You don't really need 100 watts of power anymore because, you know, you just don't. Modern PA systems can put out so much now, and the quality of modern PA speakers is so good now that, you know, even if you run amp sims, they sound great. They don't sort of detract from the sound whatsoever. So yeah, cool. Well, we've been on the stream for just over an hour and a half now, guys, so I think we should probably call it a night there. It's getting quite late here in the UK, so thank you guys again for sticking around, hanging out. It's been fun. Next Wednesday, if this time works for everyone, which based on this week it seems to be good for you guys, then maybe we'll stick to these slightly later streams. And obviously we've got the Facebook stream as well, so there's 2 places you guys can tune in. But yeah, thank you guys as always, and thanks for checking out some live premieres of pedals as well. That was quite interesting. I've never done a live premiere of a product before, so yeah, I think we'll be spending some time making some videos on those very soon. I'm a big fan of those quick tones. This is going to be fun, the Sonic Ambience. That's going to be a wacky video. I think there's going to be a lot of tweaking and crazy noises in that one. The Shark was the winner for me though. That was the instant out of the box. I really liked that. Let me know which one of the 4 you guys preferred as well. But yeah, that was interesting. I was really surprised by all 4 of those. Like I said, I've used Sonic 8 stuff before, so I knew it was good, but I haven't played this stuff in a while, so that was a nice surprise. I'm pleasantly surprised by what I heard there. But yes, thank you guys as always. You know, as always, if you're not subscribed, go and hit that button. Give the video some thumbs up because it helps the old YouTube algorithm, and obviously the more you guys help the algorithm, the more people can come and hang out on the streams with us as well. That always helps, so throw a couple of those big thumbs up on there as well, just to get it out there a bit more. And as dislikes are disabled, they're actually not disabled. They've just removed the number. You can still dislike a video, but it just doesn't tell you how many people have disliked it. It tells me, I can see how many people have disliked it, but it doesn't show the viewers how many people have disliked it. So, but don't click that one. Click the other one. Give it the thumbs up is the good one. So make sure you hit that one rather than the thumbs down. We don't want any thumbs down on these videos. Or maybe we do. I don't know. Maybe that's what. Maybe we'll go for that next time. We'll do like the the most disliked live stream. Maybe that's something we could come up with at some point. Chris just threw a question in there. If you gig the Stomp XL, you mostly have an amp modeler in front. At the moment, my gigging rig at the moment is the Stomp XL running all my effects and drives with the Blackstar Department 10. I haven't done a video on this yet on my channel. I did a video on this on the Blackstar channel recently, but not on my own channel yet, but there's going to be one coming up very soon. This is a drive pedal that actually functions as a preamp. It's got a XLR out with built-in cab sims, so that's cool. I'm using that a lot with the HX Stomp at the moment. So yeah, thank you guys as always. You know, as you know, there's plenty more videos coming up. I'm still neck deep in edits for my guitar course. The end is in sight. I'm like 30% of the way through the video edits now. The last time we spoke, I was in the audio edit stage. So the video edit stage is nearly done. I can relaunch that guitar course very, very soon, thankfully. I can't wait to get that out there because I'm really pleased with the new curriculum as well. So I can't wait to get that out there for you guys to check out if you want that sort of thing. As always, there's some links and stuff down below in the description where you can support the channel. Obviously, if you guys choose to support the channel, that really helps. Everything you guys do, whether it's, you know, sharing the videos on socials to your friends, getting your friends to come along and hang out, whether it's donating, whether joining my Patreon, anything you guys do like that helps me out hugely. This is a big part of what I do every day now, so obviously you guys supporting that helps me put more and more time into it, so it's always massively appreciated as well. So if you want to check out that kind of stuff, there's some links down below, and there'll be some links scrolling along the bottom of the screen somewhere as well. But yes, we'll be back next week, and as Quicksilver pointed out there, CGS said it the best: if you really dislike the video, click that dislike button twice. And I can imagine him saying that. I can hear him saying it. If you do really dislike the video though, what really tells people you dislike the video is if you hit the thumbs up button. So with that in mind, thank you guys as always, and I'll see you next week. Have a great week, guys. See you soon.